Yeah.
Physiological retraining exercise.
Yes.
Feel your hand, Bill.
You all know each other?
No. Dave?
Tony, Steve,
Mary.
Tony.
Tass.
Tat.
And at least you all know what it's all about, don't you?
You bet.
Well, it's the simplest of the simple. Non-duality. I put a big deal on it. But it just means the one. Without a second, without two. Only the one. Everything is that one. Or the only one. But it patterns, shapes and forms and expressing in all this diversity and all this variety. As I say, it's the one essence appearing and expressing as everything. So, though you're taking on the belief that we are persons, separate entities, individuals, when you investigate and have a look, you see you're really not. You are still that one. Because the patterns, shapes and forms that appear in are what they call Maya, or illusion, name and form. And the name is not what you really are, and the form is not. You call yourself a human form, and we give ourselves a label, which people have been christened with or told about or whatever. And you see that everything is labelled. Everything, because we've learnt words. But to recognise that one without a second, not two, you've got to look back and see, try and remember, what were you before the word? Were you had any words? Can you say you were anything at all without the word? Could you label anything in this room without the word? So when I tell you in the Bible that in the beginning was the Word, that's where it all began for us. And the Word was with God, the Word was God. All this term God is, or that's a word or a label, is the Word God. But we put all the concepts on that, higher power, greater power, supreme being, all the different labels we put on the simplicity of the Word. Only the one. Now when they say in the beginning, have a look at that. Ask yourself, when did I begin? And obviously you'll say, I began at birth. But can any one of you actually remember your birth? You can't remember your birth. You don't really remember anything until you're about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning developed in us and we learnt words. Before that you were existing, you were forming, the sperm and the ovum coming together, you were forming a little fetus, a little embryo. When you came out, the next couple of years of your life, you didn't have any words, and you can't tell me anything about those first 2 years. Somewhere around about 2 years, might have been a bit earlier, might have been a bit later. But it didn't happen, nothing happened until you learnt words. Yet you were living, seeing, breathing, tasting, touching, smelling. It was all going on. Have a look at a little child and watch the little baby today. They're still seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. The livingness is going on, but it hasn't learnt any labels. So all our problems have come about with the Word. Now have a look at the Word. Is the Word the thing? Take the word water. Can you drink the Word? Can you swim in the Word? Can you drown in the Word? And you realise it's just a label we put on a liquid which is formed by a couple of gases. Does the word fire burn your mouth if you speak it? And you realise the word fire doesn't heat you at all or burn your mouth. You can't cook with a word. You can't heat yourself with a word. So when you look into it a bit further, ask what's this word I or me? And you immediately have a look at that and you'll jump into the conceptual image you've got about yourself, which we've learned through the words. I'm Bob. I'm Australian, I'm a good fellow, or not so good, I'm unhappy, or I'm depressed, or I've had a bad childhood, the world's against me, or things are not going the way I should. All words were put onto this concept or idea that I am Bob, this individual, this person, this separate entity. But have a look at the word person and see that that comes from an ancient language, Greek or Latin, persona, the mask. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a persona or a mask we've got. And isn't that right? Haven't you got this mask of concepts? When you're told that you are Bill or Bob or Dave or whatever your name is, you're a boy or you're a human being, you're this, put all these words on it, so you've got this conceptual image which you constantly reinforce every day. And your family, your friends, your school teachers, and everybody around you reinforces that word because they've taken on the word themselves. So this conceptual image we've got about ourselves has become seemingly solid and real. And we relate everything to that image. So our problems of relationship. When we're relating to something, it's relative to you. And relativity or relationship means there's more than one. There's duality. And again, we've moved away from what the ancients point to. It's non-dual. It's one without a second. It is, everything is that. That's the Mahavakya, the great mantra you'll see in all the ancient scriptures. I am that. That is what I am. That. Everything is that. The chair you're sitting on, they say that's a chair. The carpet on the floor, that's the carpet. The lights, they are lights, so that is a light. The tree outside, that's a tree. Really, you know, everything is that first and foremost. But we discriminate it by the labels, by the words. And if you didn't have any words, how could you discriminate? Just had a cat sitting in the room here. It was seeing everything just as it is, but it wasn't labelling any of it. Good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, liking it or dislike it. It was going by smell, senses, and everything like that. Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. The natural functioning was going on. Something it didn't like the smell of it would move away. Something it didn't like, sense what was going on, and move away again. But it hasn't got any words. It can make sounds, yeah. Sounds are vibration. Vibration's a movement of energy. Vibrate. And that's all that the words we speak are. They're sounds, vibration, which we put the labels on, giving them some meaning. What we call concepts. Concepts are mental constructs. Constructs putting the label or the images we've got about them on them and construct this mental image. And when it's targeted and somebody like that tells you nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination, well, is that so? And you need to have a look and investigate. When you break that word imagination down to imagine, realise that's what you're doing all the time. We're imaging in, creating mental or conceptual images, which we're putting the word or the label on, taking them to be real, and seeing that the image is the thing, and nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination. And it's these images we form about places, time, things, this and that and everything, that the cause of all our problem. Related to the conceptual image we have about ourselves in the first place, me, Bob the Australian, the good fellow, or the fellow that's having a bad run or is unhappy or depressed, all related to that, an image relating to an image. No wonder we suffer. No wonder we're in constant suffering. Because we're relating to these images, constantly relating. Come back to what the ancients point out. It's non-dual, it's one without a second. And nothing can trouble you except in your own imagination. And have a look and see if that's true or not. These images that I'm forming, are they real? Are they the thing itself? The images I have about myself. Whether I'm good or I'm bad, present or I'm unhappy or depressed, constantly changing these images, or we fixate on one thing and keep it there longer than it should be. But while we're relating to it, what are we going to relate to if we haven't got that image? What if something comes up and I don't relate it to me? What do you know about it? What can you say about it? Well, if you're not relating it to any image or any previous thought, concept, or idea or image, don't you see it just as it is in the moment? Don't you recognise it as something fresh and new, without the word, without the label on it? And then, what would be the activity coming from that? If you're seeing it fresh and new, spontaneously, wouldn't the reaction or the response to it be a spontaneous response? Coming from as it is seen or heard or felt or tasted, touched or smelled, the natural response will come up to that. But we don't relate to the natural response, we relate it to this me constantly. Now, how many images have you formed during your lifetime? Go back to when you were a little child. What were the images you had about yourself then? And about those around you, about everybody else? Wasn't there all sorts of fear and anxiety and stress? You might have been fearful of your school teachers. You might have been unhappy about what they said, or the next door neighbour, or this one or that one. You had all these conceptual images about them, what they might do to you, seeing none of it as it is. And the psychological suffering, the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the guilt, the shame, the jealousy, the envy, the hatred, the remorse, the unhappiness, the depression, all come about by relating to this image, to what the image you've got about what the thing's appearing before you. And hasn't that been going on all your life? Isn't there that psychological suffering, fear, anxiety, stress and all the rest been going on all the time? Has there been any freedom from it? Well, sometimes it has. Sometimes it all drops off and you see things just as they are, and there might be a spontaneous, natural and joyous moment or two. Might last a little while, but then what happens? Don't the old thoughts come up again? And the relativity, the relationship goes on, because this is what I've geared myself to do. Day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out. Scare parents, schools, society and nation, everybody around us has been reinforcing it for itself, for myself, and I'm constantly reinforcing it myself. So it's seeming the natural function going on in this body all the time. And there's no peace or there might be moments or any continuous joy or happiness there. Do you think that's the way we're meant to live? When it's pointed out, things like the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness, and nothing good or bad, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. What happens if you pause the thought and ask yourself what's wrong with it?
Didn't give me a second to answer.
And see the thought or the word's not the real?
Give me a second because that sound is it's a killer.
Hey,
Yeah, we've got a full house. How are you?
not bad, how are you?
Good. Hey, good.
So, all our problems are formulated around the word. And recognise that every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learnt. It's been picked up along the way, it's been acquired, because when you go back and realise that you didn't have any words before you reached that age, about 2.5, you didn't have any words when you were in the womb, you couldn't tell me anything about that. And every word you've ever spoken has been learnt, or acquired, or picked up. And you're probably learning new words to this day. So the word is not your natural state. But yet it's the mainstream in what we think and reason and work out. So we're all based on the word, which can be very useful when it's utilised. Look at the way the mind functions, this thinking thing we call mind. Have a look at that. We think we are this body, mind, entity or person. Are you the body? When you investigate that, you realise you mightn't be what you call this body, because and you know that in your language you call it my body. Whose body would it be? Wouldn't you be referring to that conceptual image you have? You think that the body belongs to that conceptual image, me, my mind. Show me a thing called mind if you can. What is mind? Is there such a thing? When you investigate that, you realise there's no such thing as mind apart from a thought, apart from a conceptual image we've got. Mind is just a word, just a label. Because if you were the mind, you'd be fearful of losing it. Because without that mind, it'd be the end of you, wouldn't it? Yet don't you glad to give it up every night when you go to sleep? And yet we do all sorts of things to try and get rid of this mind, because we realise it's a bit of a problem. Do all sorts of meditations, practices and ideas to still the mind, to get rid of it, because it's a problem. But that doesn't happen either. Maybe it's because we don't recognise that there's no such thing as mind. Mind is me, or mine, myself. When we say myself, we all hear about this self, and we're told in the scriptures that self-shining, ever-fresh presence awareness. It's this one self that is pattern, shapes and forms, expresses as everything. And I say that also, it is only the one self. But when you're talking about myself and some other self, what are you doing? You're formulating many selves. Which self would be right? And you realise it's only the one self. It's what I tell you in the scriptures, it's self-shining, ever fresh, presence awareness. It's that sense of presence or that self-awareness that expresses or translates through the mind as the thought I am. The thought I am then becomes myself, or me and mine. And when the relationship is going to me and mine, it's problematic. But what if it's just I, self, and self alone? And everything is that self. It's the self that is shining. It is the self that is aware. It is the self that is knowing. It is the self that can be liberated. It is liberated because it was never bound. It's that one self patterning, shaping and forming experience and everything. So the self is not the many, though we've taken to believe it is. So these are the concepts, ideas and images we need to investigate and get rid of them, see the falseness of them, and remain in the actuality that you are, which is the non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness. Drop all your concepts right now. Can you negate your beingness, that sense of presence, which, when it's translated, expresses through the mind as a thought I am, but without letting it express as that thought. You're just this presence awareness. Aware. Are you unaware right now? And you recognise, no, I'm not unaware right in this moment. Have I been unaware whenever this has been going on, this talk? And you realise, no. You mightn't be listening to it closely, you might be thinking other things, but you haven't been unaware any of the time. But was there any entity trying to be aware? Or was it just happening naturally? As soon as there's a trying to become or be aware, we've moved into conceptualising or the reasoning. So leave everything as it is, what they tell you. Leave everything as it is. And how they describe what is unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Not putting any concepts, ideas or images. Leave it as it is. If it's a thought, fearful or activity, what's going on right now. Leave it as it is. And then what is it? Is that awareness fixated anywhere if it's left as it is? And then it becomes the unfixated awareness. Left as it is, it's no longer a problem. And it's free to move along, free to move on and change. Now look at this change. Is there anything out there that's static, or within you that's static, or fixated? And you realise there's nothing you can pinpoint when you investigate that's fixated at all. And when you look at the scriptures again, you'll see the ancients tell us this, that the manifestation is transient. Now, are you anything different from the manifestation? Can you separate yourself from the manifestation? So they're talking about you when they're telling you it's transient. You and everything in the manifestation is transient. And have a look at that and you realise you haven't got the same body you walked in this room with. There are thousands of cells dying in it right now. You mightn't realise it, but they are. Brush your hand, there'll be skin cells come off. They're being replaced. All sorts of cells are being replaced. So you see the body is constantly changing, transient. The thoughts are transient. They're constantly changing. You know, you might be fixated on some, which we do, fixate on some thoughts and keep them there and stay in the problems with them. But everything is perfectly resolved in the unfixated awareness. Just leave it as it is. Now you can't do this immediately because see the habit you've taken on. The habit of fixating onto this, to that, habit of looking for the answer in the mind, answer and questioning and looking at everything and trying to still the mind, do all these functioning, all habitual problems. But you've had habits before. All sorts of habits. How many of them, a lot of them you've broken. You might have had a bad eating habit, a habit of smoking, a habit of drinking, habit of this, habit of that. A lot of them we've seen the error that's in those and broken away from it. So you realise habits can be broken. So this habit of thinking can be broken also. This habit of belief in relating to the me, the conceptual image, can be broken. It doesn't have to be that way. And that's what needs to be looked at, questioned and seen for yourself. Because nobody is ever going to do it for you. Because who is there that can do it for you? Is there something separate and apart, a higher power or a greater power, or a more educated or eloquent person or people around that's going to give you the key to salvation? Well, if you think that, why haven't you found it before now? You've listened to so many people, read so many books, looked into so many things, formed opinions and ideas about some of them, recognised, resonated with some, but nobody's ever come along and patted you on the head, though many tried, and say, you've got it. Nobody's ever done that. Maybe there isn't anybody that can give it to you. Maybe it's got to be recognised, recognised by that self, the real self, not the personal self that you are. In the self recognising or recognising itself, you must be free of the bondage of self-centeredness. Ego, that's what self-centered, when the ego becomes concentrated on this personal self, that is self-centeredness. And that self-centeredness or ego is the problem. When there's no centre to that self, because can you find a centre to space? Can you find a centre to the stillness? Can you find a centre anywhere in this cosmos? You can't. There is no static point anywhere in it. So that self can't be separate or apart from any of these other things, but it's not recognised because we put so much into this personal self that we've come to believe in. Questioning and looking at that and trying to work the way out, trying to become something. Taking the problem of mind or conceptual time as being real. And we think if we do this, we will become something. Becoming implies a future time. When you investigate time and see there's no such thing as time. It's a mental concept, just another thought. And the recognising of that, where does it leave you? You're spontaneously, naturally unaware, or if you're unaware, you must be aware. Awareness is not something you're going to grasp as a concept with some specific shape or form or pattern. But you know it without putting any concepts on it. You realise you are not unaware in this moment. And you might have been looking to find awareness or consciousness many times, many years, but you haven't found it. But in the simple recognition that you're not unaware, what does that tell you? If I'm not unaware, well, I must be aware. So it's there. Even you haven't got the concept about it or idea or given it some shape or form, you recognise you can't get away from it. And that's what you are. That is the Sat Chit Ananda. That is the existence, that awareness. That is the consciousness. That is the love of being. That's different ways they put it. Awareness of being is bliss. Have an affectionate awareness of being. Being, knowing, loving and being. Sat Chit Ananda. Nama Rupa. Without the names and the forms. And I am that. Before I am that without the names and the forms on the that. And from the that, we put names and forms on everything. What happens if you just stay as that? Give it a try for a while. different way of looking at things, different way of thinking. Give it a try for a while and see what happens in your life. See what changes come about. You might be able to stay in it for very long because the old habitual way of thinking will come up. But the more it's recognised, the natural state, the more you recognise the natural state, the more you will rest in it or abide as that. That's what they tell you. Abide as that. Or let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. Pure intelligence energy, the activity of knowing, is one without a second. It's a singularity. It's not two. But leave it in its uncontrived. Recognise it as often as possible until the abiding in it becomes the natural state. The way things happen naturally. So, might have some questions, you might have some arguments about it, you might have some concepts about it. Or point it out a bit differently, where somebody else might hear it. But try and keep it on that subject all the time without going into the personal stories. Conceptual image. See how much you've recognised or resonated with, because you've all heard it many times. So we'll get into it. Why doesn't anybody want to talk about it? We're talking about football, races or something else. Personal relationships to this, that or the other. Everybody would want to jump in with this, you know. What are we talking about disappointing out? Why? Haven't you got anything to say? Haven't you looked at it? Haven't you resonated with it? Haven't you questioned it? Haven't you had touches, tastes of it along the way?
So who do you think will win this afternoon, Bob?
It won't be me for certain.
No, listening to you, it does bring up, there's a sentence that comes to me from what you were saying, just remain as that. And the sentence has been a great comfort to me recently, and that's, this is where we all live, you know. When a resentment comes up or some problematic thing in a relationship, that comes up too, you know, this is where we all live. And it really is a great comfort just in this non-dimensional space. Yeah.
Well, that's a mental insight that's come up on its own, pointing to the truth. We have all sorts of insights you roll out if you leave the natural state and take it back.
I like that little bit that you pointed in your spiel, which was different to the spiels for last few months. When he has given the example, actually you made it personal. You came up with a little analogy or an example or the story. When you were talking about the fear that we had as children towards our teachers or parents or other, that was, it kind of, it brought a little bit of a experiential reminiscence of my own fear around the teacher that I of course wanted the approval, but she was really tough lady and everybody was afraid of her. And funny enough, 30 years later, which is about a couple of months ago, she found me through Facebook and we exchanged a couple of informations and texts. And of course, just what you say, Bob, you have this conceptual image of the teacher as a child, as something that is dangerous, something threatening. But because you relate it to the tiny little whatever, 10-year-old or 7-year-old, and that one is big and is adult. But how is the conceptual image really now, when, 10 years later? And apparently I found that I have a lot of love for that teacher and a lot of gratitude for her because she was tough and because she did her job. But then it kind of brings up the recognition of how much we really live by the conceptual image Experientially, day to day, we have the conceptual image, and this is not really, it relates to the past, so it is kind of static. But as everything is changing, also the conceptual image is changing. The conceptual image of the teacher also, because the image was this way, because I was that way, so I was relating it to me. But as I stopped being a child, the image has changed also. But none of it is really true, and this is such a good example to actually take on board and verify experientially, because all of us, we did have this experience to verify how much we actually project the interpretation over the reality. As Bob said, you don't really see it as it is, you don't see them as they are. Of course we don't. We project our fears, our mental traits, our whatever, everything, and we kind of cloud the reality, and we take it as very serious. It becomes, it becomes what is for us. But as we can look back, how unreliable the image was, we can see that the image right now, which is updated over the years and over my own image, is equally unreliable, because it's equally set in context and is equally relating to an image here. So just recognizing, this was a beautiful, little chapter of an invitation for the story, how you can actually use the story, the personal story, the contemplation over a personal story, to recognize how the story is covering up reality. And this is only to love the story and the reality even more, because when it is recognized, it loses the sting. It's not dangerous anymore. It's not threatening. It is not an ultimate reality anymore. It's just a beautiful way it dances around. And when it's known, gosh, we can still cry watching a good movie, but it doesn't mean that we take that movie to be my reality. And we can enjoy the crying, and we can enjoy the emotions that are associated with the story, still understanding that this is a play, this is a story. It's not.
And if you put a strong label on it, it becomes even more locked in. Because our teacher was Ma Maggot, so that was really hard to she was just fixed, locked in like that, just Ma Maggot, and there's nothing was going to make us see her in any way. For any other aspect of her.
We are putting nicknames and
so it makes it stronger.
That's right.
And it's like Trump has become its own label. So who actually thinks about all the little other traits of Trump? Like might brush his teeth really nicely. You don't. You just got really locked in. I mean, I don't think much about him, but people who do, and there's a lot who do. Got a very whole massive locked in thing.
Yeah, but that's a good point, because everyone is so intensely complex. Like a great dictator who hates people might dearly love hamsters. And that part of his heart is totally unknown. And they're all infinite. They all that intelligence expressing as a form. So you can't encapsulate it in the image, no matter how complex and how well updated. It is still totality.
You just forget to drop the image, don't you?
Yeah. Or even not drop it, just recognize it, just see it as another piece of content.
But see behind, have it peel off and then, okay, there's just a whole bunch of assumptions.
You can
to the other.
shed the image.
Little assumption, anything,
Shed the first layer of illusion, the images. Now shed the senses, shed the world eventually.
But understand what an image is. Look at that mirror. Take the mirror down there, and you realise it's full of images. You can't say they're not there. But you go up to the mirror and try and grab one of those images out of the mirror. You can't. Because all you do is grab the glass. They're reflected on that background. So all these mental images, there's none of them are real either. Those are images in the mirror appear to be real. As I say, put them to the test. Go and try and grab an image, a reflection out of the mirror. And you realise there couldn't be an image there if it didn't have a surface to reflect on. It's the same with all the mental images you've got here. It's either in the brain or in the brain to be overcrowded with it, had all the images in it. It's the life essences expressing through that. The background is the silence and the stillness, the screen in which everything appears on. The Couldn't be one image in that mirror if it didn't have a reflecting surface to appear on. The reflecting surface is the same as the reflecting surface in this manifestation. It's the emptiness, space-like awareness, the stillness, the silence. Everything appears in pattern, shapes and forms in that. But is any of those reflections ever contaminated or corrupted or touched the mirror in any way? They haven't. What about all these words we beat the shit out of ourselves with? Constantly related to beating ourselves up with the word. When you realise that they're not doing any damage whatsoever on that essence that you are. It's only the energy and belief you put into them when you're related to the conceptual image me that you're going to be having any suffering, fear, anxiety, especially.
So, Bob, what do you do with that when you still take things, at times different things arise and you take it personally? So how do you, like some things, I know, I speak for myself, a lot of things I can just, I'm aware of it, I can move on. There's some of it where I'm stuck. I can't seem to move from that. And even as much as I'm saying I'm going to try harder, when that happens, I'm not going to get attached to it. I'm going to, move away from it. But I still have that problem getting into it.
Yeah, but you're relating to the me.
Yeah.
Well, you ask yourself, who's this happening to? Instead of trying to, you say it's happening to me. But then you might say, well, wait a minute, I heard this bloke the other day said there is no me. Now I'll have a look and see if he's right. Then takes you away from all that, trying to work it out, to see if you can find a reference point that you're relating to. You ask yourself, what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? Think questions like that, and look at that, you realise you can't relate it to anything at all. And that's where it drops off. It might take a little bit of looking, you've got to reinforce it day in, day out for years and years. But it will fall apart under investigation. That's why they say, loudly and clearly, the false cannot stand up to investigation. And that means anything that's false cannot stand up to investigation.
No, just keep trying. Thank you.
Well, we know trying, it'll be spontaneous.
Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, it gives us something better to do rather than that old one of trying to solve it, and we've never solved it yet.
Yeah, no. I
And
didn't.
so, no. I'm
yeah.
trying to say, yeah. So it's so much nicer to say, oh no, hang on, where is this me? And that's a far better game than trying to work it out. Mind you, that took a while with me.
Well, I'm still stuck.
Bob, did you say just before, and it made sense, that the words that we beat ourselves up with can't actually touch the essence?
No.
They're touching a concept.
Yes.
And so there's something that's untouchable.
Yeah.
That landed.
That's that. That is untouchable. Everything is that, but we put words all over it, give it a shape and form. The nama root of the shape and form are fiction. So we've got this shape and form you're relating to, and it's not there.
Sometimes you use the cowboys and Indians shooting themselves on the screen, but the screen is untouched.
So with the cat, there's a real sense of untouched about the cat. Immediate spaciousness when
So when that's really looked at, all it is a thought beating up on another thought. Full stop.
And this is
And
what
you
I
can
was
see that.
talking about with you the other day, that I wake up and I put on whatever I wear, but I'm also wearing a concept of myself. And it was the first time I thought, hang on, what makes this concept true? Why? It's like that concept is what I then manifest the world with. But that if I don't don that cloak, I was a bit at sea, because I thought, well, what else is there to replace that with?
Go naked.
I'm not that.
And
wait till summer.
That was beautiful.
And now it naturally resolves itself. That statement of Bankie's come true. Everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn mind.
In the unborn mind.
So if you're not thinking about it, conceptualising it, the mind hasn't been born.
So then, before when you said that the capacity for reasoning develops at 2 or 2.5,
Yeah. It's when
why
you-
does that even happen then if it's
Well, you-
interrupting the natural state?
Pardon?
Why is that even happening? Why is it the
Well,
capacity for reasoning?
could it happen any other way? You learn words. You reason.
But the word's not the thing.
No, the word's not the thing. But we don't see that at the time. We believe the word is the thing because your parents tell you, teach you words. You never question them. You'd realise it wasn't a thing if it was questioned. But your schools, your society, your parents, your nation, none of them question it. They'll tell you you've got to become. They tell you to look out there, acquire, amass, accumulate, add to, whatever you can to make yourself rich, wealthy, happy, adding something onto what is already perfect. And it doesn't happen. It's a matter of getting rid of it all. Saying it's, when you learnt the word, you take the word to be real, give it some belief in its reality. But it's just a way of labelling and describing things and conversing with others. You know.
So there's the natural progression of this mechanism because it is the way it's happened. You know?
Yeah, that's the best answer. It is the way it's happening because it is the way it is happening.
Because this mechanism
yeah,
could have gone
this-
another way and survived or do or what, God knows what reason. Maybe it's
Because
because
the question you're asking, why would the natural state want to disturb itself and create all that illusion, all that duality, and forget itself completely? Why did it want to do it? Like the question is because it is doing it. But you know, you can find the answer. Like it wants to do it to be able to recognize itself again. Like if this was only nothingness, only natural state, and there is no illusion, there is no words identification, that would be no background to recognize the natural state.
It would just be a singularity.
That's right, and it is because the duality is illusion. So the only way singularity can seemingly experience its own singularity is for creating illusion of duality, because it still is the singularity. So the illusion is just the mirror, like Bob was saying, the reflecting surface. And it brought up that Bob sometimes uses the analogy of the blue sea. And it's a beautiful analogy because the ocean, we often use the ocean as the analogy of the totality. Now the ocean is waving and the singular waves are appearing, but they're all connected, they're all part of the ocean. And ocean is a reflecting surface. And for Bob spending whatever 7 or 8 years at sea and me spending 17 years at sea, I know how blue the sea is at night. It's black. It's reflecting the sky, it's black. What about the cloudy day, stormy day with the grey overcast, like a heavy layer of clouds? It is grey. What about the windy day when when the waves are breaking and there is like 8 or 9 or 10 in a Beaufort scale? I tell you, it's white. Because the water is just breaking the waves, it's white. So the water, the ocean, the totality is a reflecting surface. How about on the sunset? I have magnificent, thousands of pictures of the sky being golden red. And if the sea was reflecting, and it wasn't any wind, and it was just like a mirror, the sea would be red and yellow. So it is really, it reflects everything. It reflects the sky. Everything is just a reflection. The whole duality is the reflection of the thought in this 3D space. So the thought, the label, actually brings out the object and it sees it, it assures it, it projects it, it creates it by itself, using the body mind to start with as a projector, and then simultaneously the whole world. This is receiving and transmitting at the same time. It's a surface, reflecting surface. And it's all illusion.
Never didn't go this way, it'd probably still be blobs in the ocean. It just happened to have gone this way.
Yeah, it did. It didn't happen
Just
any other way.
Evolve in this direct way that we talk and think duality.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the duality, then the one would make have that much experience, would it? Because everybody would be the same. That's why I understand it. It needs the duality to experience more.
There'd be no recognition of anything.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
singularity.
that's right.
So everybody would be the same.
No,
No,
there
there
wouldn't
is-
be
there
anyone.
there would be
There wouldn't be
anyone.
anyone.
We are one.
Everyone.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, it's only because of the conditioning that makes it seem everybody's different. You know, it's the conditioning, isn't it?
Well, it's first that initial split,
First
Yeah.
which,
amoeba.
which has got nothing to do with anyone.
Alright.
There's that initial split, which has nothing to do with you. Then the conditioning arises from that.
The idea there is a world is simultaneous with the idea there is an observer of the world. So there is a me and the world, but there isn't. We're not separated. Like when Bob is actually showing up, how could me, whatever I mean the me to be, if I mean the me to be body, I'm not separated because I need the water, I need the matter, I need the fire, the temperature, and I'm breathing constantly, I'm exchanging everything. Now, whatever is seen is actually part of the seeing. So even the eyes are not separated from the seeing, from the seen, from the gaze, from everything that is experienced. The idea that this is a separation here, the body and the world, and now there are things that I hear and there are things that is hearing it, is only a thought. And because that thought is believed, bam, there you have the world and the me. But they are not real.
Just on what Bob was saying about the mirror and looking in the mirror, I love that, and also that the recognition that everything is an image.
Mm.
It's just, it's not actual. It is, but it isn't. God.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you, in your own absolute direct experience, if you stand in front of a mirror and look at that reflection in that mirror, the thing that is not reflected back is that presence. So that you're seeing in the mirror is not your absolute direct experience here, standing in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, that's it.
Otherwise, the reflection would be able to see
Yeah.
back the same way.
That's
The reflection sees space, nothing.
Yes.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah. So that's a really good thing to try and do. Like literally just stand in front of a mirror. Because from here, from my own
Yeah.
direct experience standing here, there's awareness and there's seeness and there's space and there's all that going on. But that doesn't, you can't see that in the mirror.
Correct.
So that image that I'm seeing in the mirror is not my actual natural state. There's no presence in it. There's no awareness in it. It's just a reflection of a body.
Well, I've done that a few times, looked in the mirror and I'm staring at it and I look and I think, this comes in my mind, who's this? This is not me. It's coming to me as a thought. And I look at it and it's that person's looking stranger and stranger to me. But I don't have that connection like you just said now. I haven't had that, that connection. But I can see when I'm staring at it for a while that I look strange. I don't look as me or I or whoever.
Okay, so it's instead of getting tied up in the image
Yeah,
in the mirror,
yeah, yeah,
bring it back to here
yeah.
and the fact that there's a presence here.
Yeah.
Instead of I'm not that, I'm not. What's
Yeah.
this? Because whatever this
Yeah,
is not in the mirror.
yeah, yeah.
It's totally not.
Yeah.
And your direct experience even now, like my direct experience sitting here looking at you right now is I have no head.
Yeah.
That's my direct experience, my absolute direct experience. What is it that replaces the head then? There's an awareness, there's arms poking out the side of an awareness. Absolutely is.
Mm.
From where you're sitting, it appears I have a head. But my direct experience, my absolute direct experience sitting here right now is there's just space here.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of times when I drive, and that happens a lot, it's like someone's looking at the hands driving. I know that it's not this body, and okay, who's looking? All right, and this happens a lot. even if I'm driving and I can see that everything's moving, but it's not really moving. Like I have all,
Great.
yeah, but I still get hooked.
Look, it's real.
Attachment, yeah.
Look,
Yes.
it's really, really subtle, okay? You said before, sometimes you can be aware of what's going on, certain behaviours and so on and so forth, and sometimes you get stuck in it, okay? That says, I can see what's going on, I can see the thoughts, I can see the behaviour, and so on and so forth. The entity that's saying that is the exact same entity that is saying, now I'm stuck. See, what you're currently viewing is just the content of thought without questioning that thing that is supposedly there saying, I'm not stuck, I'm stuck. It's not in the content. It's close, it's much closer.
Yeah.
Yeah? So I've got it, I haven't got it. I'm aware, I'm not aware. You know? I can see all the thoughts going on, but now I'm stuck in it and I feel really, really lodged in it. What's lodged in it?
Okay.
Who's lodged in
Got
it?
it.
And the thing that's lodged in it is the one that has an opinion on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
here
what I'm not questioning.
we're not seeing.
Yeah, not seeing it. Yeah.
So it's closer.
Yeah.
It's closer than just the observable thoughts that go on in your head.
Yeah, that's
It's closer than that.
Thank you.
Because that me will have,
it just made sense to
Beautiful.
me.
Because that me will have an opinion
Yeah.
on the thoughts that are going on. You know?
That's one of the traps.
Yeah.
One of the traps is, I don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not me, so I don't want it. So
Yeah.
you're caught up straight away. So
That's-
that's what it does. The mind loves that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what the
Thank
poet
you.
tells you,
That's
isn't it?
good.
That's what the poet tells you. It's closer than your breathing,
Yeah.
nearer than your hands and feet.
So going back what you
Yeah.
just said, that when you're looking at someone, you don't see yourself ahead. You see it just as an invisible being actually looking, which is consciousness.
Or you
Is
could,
that what you're saying?
or you could say, in your actual experience,
Yeah.
truth, there's nothing but space here. Nothing but space. Or, you know, you could go, there's awareness here. You could do that as well if you like, but you're better off acknowledging there's nothing but space here. And that there is nothing but space here. In your direct experience.
Can't quite get that.
Well, you're sitting there looking at me now.
Yeah.
Can you see your head?
No.
What's replacing it?
That's what I was saying before. That means it's not. There's something else there looking, not the body's looking. Is that what you're saying or not? In a way or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like an invisible, let's say, an invisible shape, let's say, which is actually looking, but it's not the body. Well, I take it as it's the body is looking.
Well, what we do is we take it as me as looking.
Or me, or body is me, and the body's being me.
We take it as me as looking. But if you sit with that emptiness, if you just be more interested in that emptiness as opposed to the me, just be more interested in that. It's amazing. It's amazing. And we pay no attention to it because we think
We
that
focus too
what
much on the body.
what we are is that it's
Yeah.
reflected in the mirror.
Yeah.
Realise that emptiness is a knowing emptiness, a cognising emptiness. As the Buddha calls it, cognising emptiness. And that's where you can make the statement, emptiness is form. All these forms are that emptiness, and the form can be nothing other than the emptiness. You're still only the emptiness. Tells you in Xing Ming, emptiness there, yet the infinite universe stands ever before your eyes. No difference. All boundaries have ceased, you know. One with
It works both ways too. For both of you, it works both ways. The other thing that's not reflected in the mirror is your me. Where are all the thoughts? How come they're not reflected in the mirror? Where is the opinion of yourself? Why isn't that reflected in the mirror?
And the hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling. The reflection doesn't have any of those capacities.
No, you only see the body.
Yeah. Yeah, reflection can't hear. You can have
No.
the reflection far away, and then you can shoot the gun behind it.
That's right.
Still, the body only hears that.
Mm.
So
When you see that, when you really see that emptiness, when you fully cognise that you're not that is reflected in a mirror, or you're not this that you can see, you'll see it in others. That you think a person is not the person. It's totally not. That the tassis that I'm looking at now is that space, is that emptiness,
Essence.
untouched essence, presence, awareness.
So you can actually
And
see that. You don't.
you know it.
Oh, you know it.
You
Yeah,
absolutely. There's no ifs or buts. You know it. But I can't see. I can't see Tass's awareness. I can't experience it. I can't experience his emptiness. But I can point
Yeah.
Tass to see his own. Self-inquiry. It's something you need to see for yourself. So I know he's not the body. Absolutely, without any doubt. And any stories that come out of his mouth, I know it's not him. I know it.
Yeah, it's a
You
knowing.
just know it.
It's a knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond the knowing.
Yeah.
Like last week, I experienced the fact of no time and space. It was a no. I know. I mean, I've had lots of touches, and that seconds or whatever time it is, it's a knowing.
Beautiful.
You can't say otherwise.
There's nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It's just
It's a knowing. Yeah.
You'll get insights. You will.
Yeah, I get
You
insights,
will.
but I'm not getting into the crunch. I can't sort of strip it off.
That's okay. That's because you're still identifying with
Yes.
that's saying, I just can't get with that.
Yeah.
I can see it's just all churning here,
Yeah, because I suppose you try so hard.
Absolutely.
You know what I
It's
mean?
maybe too
But
hard.
there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. I try so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's closer. You
Yeah.
kind of really need to see that inner me
Yeah.
dialogue that's going on, as
Mm.
opposed to accepting the inner me dialogue that's going on and thinking that you're going to see something in the content of your thought or in the mind.
Yeah, and it's exactly.
You're not going to find shit there.
Yeah, and
Well,
that's what I'm finding.
correction, you'll just find shit there.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding. Crap. I'm not finding anything.
There's something that is, so to
Yeah.
speak, doesn't like nothingness type of thing, and so it struggles, like, hold on, what do you mean? This is not me, and so henceforth it starts churning.
Yeah.
And that's the hook, you're gone straight away. And as you say, and then you start trying. And I don't want this, and then you've gone at every
The
angle.
cat's chasing its tail.
So when you say you see emptiness, so how does that relate to also the body there? What the seeing or body there? How does that relate to that? Also, I don't know if I'm explaining. You said that if you look, you only see emptiness there, right? And
I
you
could,
see a
also,
body.
I could also say fullness, but that might confuse you.
What were you saying again?
Fullness is everything.
Is everything.
Put your body under a microscope and see how solid it is.
You're everything.
Mm.
There's no split.
So Ram was actually asking for everyone to shut up and have Bob only speak, but now he changed his mind and he wants Terry to
That's what
speak.
I'm
Ram.
No, itself as well.
I'm lucky I can get stuff out of everything.
So understand,
Hmm?
understand
Totally non-Manjul
that
stuff.
will not
That's
be
good.
experienced.
Yeah, well, that's a
by
higher school.
you.
If you can hear it from
Yeah.
everyone,
And the
that's
only way
of
that
course the
experience will
beauty of it.
manifest
Yeah.
or wake up
That's
is
closer
when
to the
you
home.
are completely absent.
I'm experiencing it now.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful, as you said.
Mm.
It's amazing. Nothing happens.
So you're going through now. that
I'm in
process.
nothingness now.
So it's like if you
Just repeat it for me again. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I feel frustrated with myself. It's like I want to get there, and you know, you're just not going anywhere.
Okay. So it's that that's seeking,
Yeah.
that that's striving,
Yeah.
that wants.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason it's even doing that is because it doesn't feel complete.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would like to.
Right. So it's that that's striving and that wants
Yeah.
that's in the way.
Ah.
And how do you put it on the side?
Self-inquiry. Look, you have. The me can't put it aside. Your question is in relation to your me, yourself, that self-identity. It can't put it aside. All you can do is go looking for, is this me actually real? Is it real? Is it something? What actually is it? And literally go looking for it. So what I was saying to you before, and I've said it here a few times,
Sorry, a little bit thick. It's just.
please don't. I ask questions for years. So, listen.
Yeah.
There's nothing to get.
Yeah,
There is
I comprehend that.
There's nothing to gain. You're not going to get or gain anything. What you will lose is that sense, that personal identity, that personal sense of me.
Yeah.
That drops off. So if that drops off, then that's dropping off can't get anything, can it?
True that.
But what are you left with?
You
What
know,
do you,
just fine.
yeah. And it's right here, always. It's always here. But we're so...
Sometimes I'm aware of it. I can feel it. I can hear the sound. I'm there, but I don't question it. I say, oh, it's good feeling.
Well, it's good that you don't question it.
That's the other problem, appreciate so many
No,
times
I
when it
do.
just appears.
Oh, no, that I do.
And then that lets go of
Yeah, but
needing
then
to happen
at the same
faster.
time, I feel like I'm not moving. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
that's only in me.
But who? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Who?
Yesterday, for the first time, I always, when I meditate, we try to get up at night and meditate because it's nice and quiet. And I always say, who am I? And, what am I? And I'll say that. And to me, it's like it sounds like I'm just on the surface. I can feel that. I'm just saying that on the surface. But yesterday, it didn't feel on the surface. It felt like someone else was asking, who am I? No, it wasn't this one.
Great,
But that's it.
great.
But the
That's
appreciation
okay.
of that becomes so much,
Yeah.
it's enough that it's only a few times, and then it does become more. And that's good, and that's becomes...
It's okay.
Appreciation is there because
Okay.
it happens, as I said, I'm getting a lot,
You can taste
things.
it's great.
Yeah, but it's just,
The butt gets smaller.
yeah.
It gets smaller.
Does my butt look big in
Well,
this?
putting
Oh, yeah, that butt gets smaller.
it in really, really simple terms,
Yeah.
all that's happening for you is you are still identified with the thoughts, and they're only thoughts.
Yeah, that I'm aware. I'm aware because even one morning I was focusing on my breathing. I was in bed, and I could feel it that I'm resisting. I am resisting. It's like I'm dwelling with another one. I'm going, why am I resisting? I don't want to resist. Yet I wasn't asleep. I was in bed, but I was aware of it.
Is there one of you or two of you?
There's been two.
There's been two.
Yeah.
Yep.
Few times.
Yep.
And it's like we haven't a thing.
Okay, but in truth, is there one of you or two of you?
Or one, in truth. In truth, but that's what I'm saying. It's like my ego, and that is dwelling. Yeah? And I've experienced that, I'm aware of that. And I want to break from that.
See, there you go, but that's the trap.
Ah.
Okay, that's the trap. You're wanting to get out of something.
Yeah. You're not getting anywhere because, yes, there's nothing to get out of.
It's an experience.
Terry, the way you said something before
The words try.
helped.
To hear someone
You-
say that.
Is there like a
Trouble.
Okay.
when we're perception, we take that it's a me perceiving, but in fact it's presence.
I'm aware of that.
It's just
That's what I
presence.
said before.
Yes.
Some things I can't.
And so the struggle is to kind of identify
Yeah.
me that's doing it,
Yeah.
which takes you away
Yeah.
from the fact that it's just presence.
Yes.
Great stuff.
It's just presence.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful, Tess.
yeah.
Yep. No fault in any of that. Yes.
Sorry, I missed that. Sorry.
Too late.
It was
Got
how
forward,
Terry
yeah.
explained it
Yes.
before it came through. It was this struggle to have we think it's a me perceiving something, and so we take that concept of who is the me doing it and what does it look like and who is it, when in fact it's no me, in fact it's just presence, it's just presence perceiving.
And that's what my trap is.
Just an activity.
Yeah, and I understand exactly what you're saying, but that's what my trap it is. Because a lot of times then I know that's not me, and then at times then I still get hooked on the me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course you do, because
Yeah.
that's what the society we grow up in. But
Yeah.
it's so beautiful, because if that's not there, there's just presence. It's the
Yeah.
ultimate liberation.
See, a lot of times, especially if I'm on my own, I've said to my husband, one night I got up, I had pains, and I was walking around, then all of a sudden I went and sat down, had my dressing gown, I sat on the couch, and it just felt I was in heaven. The pain went, no thoughts, no noise, just the sound was there, and it was heaven. It felt so beautiful, and it felt really good. I don't know how long it lasted. I was happy, I enjoyed it. When it finished, I got up and went to bed. It was fine. So I can...
What could you say about that state? What could you say about that
Perfect.
experience that you had?
It's just perfect. There's no thoughts, there's no worry, there's no nothing. You just...
Nothing wrong.
It's like love, it's just a pure essence, if you know it. Now, I've experienced it quite a lot of times.
Right.
But then I go and stuff it up in a different way.
The conditioning just comes back.
Yes.
That's all. It's not that
Yes.
it's neutral.
Yeah, you're not stuffing up the
No, no.
conditioning.
It's
It comes
neutral,
back.
Exactly.
neutral transition.
All that happens is, so you'll experience that you just described. Then all that happens is the thoughts just start to appear again. You take those thoughts that just start to appear again as something you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with you. Zip.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Go to bed.
Your whole self-identity.
Oh, I did then.
That's right.
Your whole self-identity has got nothing to do with you. You're not manifesting any of the thoughts that go on in you. None of it. It's totally impersonal, has nothing to do with you. You have no will, no power, nothing in that. It just arises, and like the waves. But we take that arises to be something either I'm doing or that's arising is me. Both.
Or it's happening to you, sort of thing.
And
As if it's happening to me, or
yeah, either happening to you
Yeah.
or
doing it.
I'm doing it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I understand the part. So go back to what you said. As a me,
I got that. Thank you, guys.
I can't do anything about it. Then you said just self-inquiry.
Yeah.
As to explain the word with the self-inquiry is what to find out. Okay, I ask a lot of times, who am I? Who am I? Is that what you mean by self-inquiry, or a bit deeper?
A bit deeper.
Okay.
A bit deeper. So, what is it? That's right. What is it that's actually aware of the me, or the thoughts, or the behaviour?
It's conscious.
Because it's prior.
It's
To
separate
be
from it. It's separate
to be
from it.
aware, it's got to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like subject object sort of thing.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But seeing, it's so important. It's so important to see that this self-identity that's manifesting is just manifesting. It's got nothing to do with either of you. Zip. But we identify with them.
Yeah.
We take it to be mine. These
Yes,
are my
yes,
thoughts,
yes,
and
yes.
or I'm being impacted by these thoughts, and oops, and now my behaviour because of how I'm thinking is impacting others, and oh Jesus, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And if you want to test it, just sit there for 2 minutes and think nothing. Try it.
Oh, I'll do that. I can do that. I can do that like that. Not a problem. And then certain things, not everything, I've got to say, not everything will impact on me or will I take it on board. A lot of stuff now, I don't. There's certain things that I still cannot let go. For whatever reason it is, I still cannot let go. And I'm stuck, and I know that I'm stuck in those particular things that I'll really, like I'll talk about, even with my husband, I say, I'm stuck into this, I really need to let go. But somehow, I'm not letting go.
Let go of the fact that you think you need to let go, or you're stuck and you can't let go. Let go of that. Because it's just arising. There's no need to let go of anything.
You got to go before that.
Yes.
You got to go behind that.
Yes.
And people might jump on this one, like, because for some people, any kind of psychological looking is a contraction for them, but for me it seems to be an expansion, and often turns up with the letting goes. Just sometimes like some of those basic questions, just looking at that thing that actually bugs you, and always just partly noticing when it's starting to creep in, and it's just like, and it might just disappear before it comes in, or partly it's, okay, so was there something that I was told a lot as a kid? Was there something in there that's just a bit, and for yourself whether that makes you more contracted or it's just...
Look, I understand that I've got to be aware when it happens, right? And yet, as I said, a lot of stuff doesn't bother me. I can just, it's not a problem. But there's a couple of things that somehow I'm still...
As Bob said before, before 2.5, you're present. There's no concept of me doing it, you're just present.
That's right.
So that's it's that state.
Also, another aspect, there is, you say you had these experiences of emptiness, of freedom. These experiences, did they happen after you were very, very hard trying to let go and rumbling in the head? No. See,
they happen when I'm relaxed and I'm not even thinking about it.
Exactly. And this is the way in. You just drop everything and basically just it appears to the quiet mind. Like Course in Miracles says, God comes to the quiet mind.
Now when I'm stressed,
trying is actually making it worse. The more you try, the further away you stroll from that natural state.
And I'm aware of that because I noticed that a lot of experience come, as I said, and when I'm not thinking, it just happened. But then there's certain things. I don't know. Some things that I'm just. I really got to work hard.
Just keep that receptivity, because it happens. It shows up out of nowhere from nothing. If you are receptive, it will just take you. If you are too busy in the head, it won't. And if you're too busy trying to get out of it, it won't. Because it's too crowded.
That's right.
Sun doesn't. It's like a canopy of clouds. It's too dense for the sun to shine.
And I've been finding lately, because I don't really have the trying thing happening, but sometimes there can be churn if there's something that's been a bit more buried and it's being triggered and coming up, and there's no sense of trying to resolve it, but I can just hear this churn and churn and churn about it, and sometimes there's a little me complaint that it's going on, but as that releases and those complaints don't really come, like it's more of a relaxing thing and it's just happening anyway, this churn around some issue. Sometimes like an enlightening point turns up, which might be good for writing about something, making money, whatever. But it does seem to reveal something more, and then that does lead to more space later on. And so I'm actually quite relaxed about the churn.
And that's absolutely the way. Because, the moment the way Tony is describing the churning happening, she's aware of the churning happening somewhere in the distance. It is not. She's not identified with the content of the churning. She's the awareness, the knowing of the churning. So if whether it's quiet here or something going on here, who cares really? The awareness doesn't really care whether there is noise or there is no noise, because it is the pure knowing. So it really is recognizing the thinking for what it is. The thinking doesn't really matter. What is the thinking? Doesn't matter about identifying with particular thought. This is me, I'm thinking about this. No, it's just thinking going on, and I'll leave it.
Tell me something. Say something happens. Say you have a person continuously attacking you. All right. Okay, how do you handle that situation?
Oh, it depends on every situation is uniquely different. One person I may snap, one I may walk out of the room, another one I have no idea because it
Like, how do you center
it's
yourself in that case?
spontaneous. If you think you have to have the rule, okay, now I'm gonna always handle that situation in one particular way, you're completely at war with change, with impermanence. It's impossible.
Yes.
It's nothing
yes.
fixed.
Look,
It's spontaneous. You just kind of, if you're present, if you open, spontaneous response will come up. And one time it may be slapping them in the face. Another time it may be breathing. Another time it may be just admiring that surge of anger boiling in the body, like, and it's yummy. If you actually...
So don't judge that, just go with the flow of it.
Oh, if judgment comes up, that's okay. Let it be also, you know, if it comes up, just let it be. Whatever comes up, leave it unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Just
Accept
leave
it
it
as
as
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's the attachment. You see, if you want to have the next situation different from the one you've just had, you're gone already because you're attached to it's an expectation you're setting yourself up for.
That's right.
The future's already been made right now.
You've got kids? You've had kids?
I got 4.
Great, okay. So if you had, say, a 5 or a 6-year-old that was tormented like you get when you get tormented, okay? You can see the child's tormented and doesn't know how to be and doesn't know how to react. And we're talking a 6-year-old, okay? How would you respond to that child?
Okay,
What would
you got a good point.
Yeah.
What would naturally come up?
Okay, you've got a good point, because I've got a granddaughter who's 5. And I see the child, like different way that the child acts and gets treated, that I relate to it, to my childhood. And at the same time, I can see what's happening, and so I act that child, I treat that child different. I make her understand whatever. I don't react to her.
Is there
I react, say, to the parents.
Because you want to be different.
is there an affection or a compassion that just naturally arises in you in relation to that child?
Right, I have compassion.
Right. So you do the exact same thing
Yeah.
when you're aware of all the stuff that's got, Bob used to call it, what was it, Bob? Affectionate awareness? No, affectionate awareness. You have an affectionate awareness around what's going on, going on for you.
Yeah.
So something might arise, or you might go, oh, I'm stuck in that.
Yeah.
You go, oh, hello,
Doesn't need to be fixed.
hello, look at that.
Okay, I do that there and then after, what happens, I start to bitch. You know, I get upset because I think, why do they do that?
That's fine too. And when that's going on, you go, oh, hello, look at that arising.
But when you are there with that child, on your own, just the two of you, okay, and you can see she's really upset, all right, do you then lecture her and say, well, you know, you did this, you should do this next time? No. You give her your space, okay, and she responds with that, you know, you just give her some space.
I don't have a problem with the child. So the child
So
loves
I'm
coming to my
saying-
house.
so
because
what we're
she's relaxed in
saying-
my house.
It's just an analogy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
So what we're
It's
saying,
not in relation to.
Yeah.
yeah, I know you don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but generally, you give her your space, you know.
Yeah.
And what Terry is suggesting is you give yourself that space. Okay. You know, just don't lecture yourself or try and work it out.
Can't
Just-
fix
yeah.
You can call it attention also. Give
Attention,
yourself
yeah,
a
your
child
attention.
attention.
Yeah.
Warm. There's.
I really like that
Hard to explain,
affectionate
isn't it?
awareness. It's a
Language,
beautiful term.
Yeah. Be warm. Be kind to that that's going
Yeah,
on.
that's the thing. I've got twins and they're saying, Mummy, you're very hard on yourself. You always run yourself. You always... And I said,
Would you treat a 6-year-old the way you treat yourself?
no.
Woo woo
What are you
woo.
doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
But that's your past, you've got to remember
I know,
that.
that's got to do with my upbringing. I understand
Absolutely.
that.
That's the
Totally.
parent
So this is
stuff.
just
Yeah.
The
a
moment.
switch, if you
I
like.
hadn't sort of taken it back to me.
Hmm.
I hadn't taken it back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Love thyself.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Yep.
Well, thyself is one, really, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's realised later.
We'll get to that one.
Well, first you've got to see there's no self.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then the self that you are loving isn't that self that you've let go. Although you can be affectionate towards it
Yeah, yeah.
in the process, just be affectionate towards it. And stuff comes up.
Yeah, that was out of my league completely. I can tell you that. It was just I was just focusing so much on the outside. I wasn't focusing with it. Even though my twins have said it to me, Mum, you're really hard on yourself. You've got to let go. And I go, yeah, you know.
Good. So start taking their advice.
Yeah,
Be affectionate.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. It all makes all small sense, and it just see little things and others you don't ever look for towards yourself. Thank you. That's good.
And ultimately, everything is that one self. So everything is yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
even if there is anger, or even if there is disappointment or judgment, this is how the one self, the absolute, is expressing.
Mm.
Why not just love it?
Mm. Even those that you seem to be in conflict with, try switching.
Yeah.
Try being absolutely loving, absolutely understanding, compassionate, empathetic.
Love the conflict, the
Yeah.
resistance. Because it's not you doing it, it's just a habit pattern.
Yeah.
It's impersonal.
Yeah.
Socialisation.
It's same thing
Yeah.
on the other side also. They're not doing it either.
Correct.
That's
right.
Mm,
Correct.
That's exactly.
It works both ways.
Where do you think the expression comes? Forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Yeah.
That's coming up a lot to me lately. The fact, what Tanya just said, that's coming up a lot. Even when I do get upset or something, then that comes up to me too, because I think, well, it's one dress fits all, really. Yeah.
It's all about catching yourself, I think.
Yeah.
When you, in that moment, you have
Yeah.
to catch yourself.
Yeah. Just watch it. See, you just act and react purely spontaneously. Thoughts just spontaneously arise, and you'll connect to a feeling. You'll be in a relationship with somebody else, whatever that relationship is. There might be friction, there might be love, there might be whatever it is. But what's going on for you in relation to that is just arising spontaneously. And it's arising for the other spontaneously as well. It's seeing that. It's actually seeing that. And to see that, you can only self-inquire. You can only watch it. Just watch it. Watch the way it happens. Yeah.
Watch the way it unfolds. Sort of.
Yeah. Watch that it just happens spontaneously, that there's no you there doing it. There's no you there separate from all your reactions and all your thoughts, going, okay, now I'm going to have this thought. Oh, now I'm going to have that reaction, that feeling. There isn't, it just happens spontaneously. Just becoming aware of that, just watching that, that's it. Yeah.
And then Moira highlighted here in the message that letting go also arises spontaneously. Recognizing arises spontaneously. Watching it arises spontaneously. There is really no doer doing any of it. But if you are exposed to the non-duality and you resonate, there will be an affectionate part of you that will actually bring out that spontaneity. The loving to be will bring up spontaneous recognition, spontaneous inquiry. That's the miracle of it, because I can't say, okay, there is me here, I can't do any of it, but I can let go and I can recognize and I can watch it. I can't do anything at all. Watching, recognizing, letting go is part of the spontaneity. But it shows up if it is part of the conditioning. And the conditioning is the resonating, is the receptivity for that teachings. That is kind of like it's not really a conditioning, it's an unconditioning. It is whipping off the conditioning of distracting ourselves with something else.
And it just flashes in. It's like it flashes in often. You know what's going on if no thing is happening. What's left if there's no actual things. And this is what pops up for me. Like, you know, some chap said he only wanted to hear from 1 or 2 people. But just the pattern here is able to hear anywhere, and that flashes in constantly. Some version of what's left if you're not thinking about it. And so it could be self-help people who most definitely think there's a duality. And then, so what's the reverse of that? Or, you know, just, it could be...
Or just a bird, or passing tram.
Anything, yeah,
it doesn't even have to be a person.
And it's just so noticed that particular pointer popped up. I couldn't plan which pointer was going to come up in that moment. And there's just, hundreds of them do, but they all are what is there. If there's no meaning making it all going on, you know.
And you also, Tony, you notice posters and the slogans on the walls.
Yeah, I used to do that quite a lot. I used to mention that quite a lot, didn't I? Yeah.
So the non-duality is all there is. There isn't Ram was asking for Bob to speak. He didn't like when I was speaking, but then you open up your mouth, he did like it. So it was...
Ram said he'd be here today. He's
he went to bed at 5:30, so he couldn't get it.
But then probably Ram's experience of the process is probably very related to Bob's and Terry's.
But that's the personal preferences are part of the conditioning, and they also natural, they also spontaneous.
It's learning styles, how you learn.
Yes, and that's why so many speakers, and everyone can resonate whoever they want to resonate, and it's no obligation to resonate with everyone.
Yeah. And some people it's a body resonation; they have to go and walk around a lot. You know, some people have to go and what's the other ones? Just feel a lot of love for everything until it's completely expanded. And here it's just observing the mental chatter.
Yeah.
It's just what happens. There's no planning. It just seems to be so far what mostly happens. Can't really say much about it, how it's going to be in any next spontaneous moment.
Yeah, but ultimately learning to actually see and recognize it from everywhere. Every moment to moment. Whether I speak or Terry speaks, doesn't matter, because that is to be recognized moment to moment.
Yeah, something might be a big block and piss off for a few months. Before it wasn't. Like for months, I never had daydreams outside of this room. When I was in the room, it's just seeing what's going on for here and here. And there might have been little thought patterns going to process about what was going on, or someone triggered something, but it was always about what they were saying. It was never a journey out of the room. And then for the last year, there's been a lot of journeys out of the room, although I'm much more relaxed with the whole lot of it. It doesn't matter, really.
It doesn't.
It's just different stages, different stuff has to come up and disappear. That might sound like a story, but it does seem to be happening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
You lit up